Drugs don't heal, supplements don't heal, healthy food doesn't heal, therapies don't heal. What we need to start realizing is that the body can heal itself, and that our job is to put the body in the right conditions. When I walk around a biohacking expo or an anti-aging conference, and there's all these exhibitors, I would say that more than half of them are non-scientific based. They are gadgets, they don't work.
You said cholesterol is a big hoax.
Big pharma industry always needs to come up with something that makes billions. My grandmother never heard of cholesterol, right? And so they come up with it, with something, then they come up with a man-made range, and they make sure that 80-90% of the people are high because now they need the drug.
Everyone watching this is aging in one form or another as we speak. How can we slow down the aging process, and is it possible that we can reverse it?
Yes, thanks for having me, Jessica. It's certainly possible. And today, actually, we can objectively measure the reversal of our biological age. So first of all, people need to understand the difference between chronological age, which is our date of birth, and biological age, right? Chronological age, if we really think about it, doesn't mean much because we all know that person that's in her or his 60s and has 2 pages of medications in and out of the hospital, diagnosed with everything under the sun, and they're like the walking dead, right? We all know that person. There's no quality of life, and they're only in their 60s. We also know that 90-year-old person that is still playing 18 holes of golf once or twice a week and is very witty and is totally independent. So from that you can see that chronological age or date of birth really doesn't mean much. It's our biological age, is how young is our biology, our physiology, and our quality of life. And today, with the strategies and technologies that are out there, not just for the elite, but even for the average person, I certainly believe that we all easily can become 100 years of age chronologically, but be able to do the things a 40, 50-year-old can do at age 100. And that's really what it's about. It's life spanning. It's the quality of life that we are extending. And today, yes, we can actually measure that objectively.
How can one measure their biological age?
Well, there's several parameters. The most common one or the most known one is measure your telomere length. The telomeres are the end caps of your chromosomes that basically you protect your DNA in each and every cell. But as our cells divide, those telomeres become shorter and shorter. So it's a normal process, and it indicates aging, because when those telomeres are too short, the cell can no longer divide and become a zombie cell or a senescent cell or a cell that has no function in our body anymore. And so we can measure on how long the telomere is. And let's say we measure that today, and we're going to implement some strategies and technologies, which we call biohacking technologies. And in 3 or 6 months or a year, we measure again. And if the telomere length increased or didn't shorten, we stopped aging or we reversed aging. But besides telomere length, we can do all kinds of testing, but gut biome testing, DNA, epigenetic testing. And so we can assess several parameters, then implement those strategies and assess again. And actually, we can show how somebody's biological age may be reversing by living the right way.
Now, how do we measure the telomeres? Do we just go to our primary care physician and say, I want to measure my telomeres?
No, he won't have those tests, right? Unless you go to a functional medicine doctor. But obviously, you can just Google it, telomere length testing. But many functional medicine labs will be able to do that. The best keyword is putting in measuring your biological age. And so that way you will get different labs that have different parameters or markers to measure that biological age. And so if you're 50 today and you measure it today, maybe 56, meaning you're aging a little bit faster than you should, or you're 49. And then the goal from that moment on is continue to lower that number, right? So my goal, for example, I'm 53. And so each year I want to reduce at least by 1 year my biological age. So if I keep chronologically, 1 year older, but biologically always try to cut off a year, then even when I'm 100 years old, I still will be looking and feeling the same as a 53-year-old. And that's kind of the goal here.
By the time you're 100, you'll be like a 5-year-old.
No, we don't want to do that because I only want to, when I gain a year, I want to biologically turn back a year. So I kind of stay at that, where I am now. But yes, you could. There's people that actually are so, maybe the word obsessed is not the right word, but so into this that they shave off, 5 years, a decade even in just 1 or 2 years biologically. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is Brian Johnson. I'm sure you're familiar with. What is your opinion on the way that he approaches anti-aging?
He's the one with all the supplements, right?
He is.
Well, no, supplements is a part of it, right? Because supplements is kind of an insurance policy. We are exposed to far more toxins, not just from our food and our drinks, but also the environment and electromagnetic frequencies, etc., that our body cannot keep up with the elimination. And so even our food is depleted from the nutrients that we need. Even if we buy wholesome foods from the farmer's market or the organic section of the supermarkets, there's a time that lapses between harvest and consumption, and during the time we lose a lot of nutrients. I'm not saying not to buy organic whole foods. That's what I, obviously select exclusively, but we're still missing a lot of valuable nutrients. And so, in order to compensate for that, we need high quality supplements. So, supplements is certainly one of those things that we need to look at and be careful because a lot of supplements obviously they do not work or they don't have the right ingredients. So we need to look for professional grade or medical grade supplements. But there's so many other things that we obviously can do besides taking supplements to reverse that biological age.
Are there certain supplements that you think everyone universally should be taking?
Well, the best thing to do always is obviously, see where you are nutrient wise, measure everything you can. And if you're deficient, then, if you're deficient in D3 or in vitamin D, which most of us are, then obviously you need to supplement with it. But if you're not, then there's no reason to it. Although I believe there's no such a thing as too much. But it's a financial burden, right? Why buy something and take it if your body is producing enough of it? So I think it's important to establish those baselines again, and then as you take in those supplements, do the test again to make sure that the supplement's working and getting those levels up. And then once they're in a optimal range, stay on a maintenance dose or see how you do. Because many times you can lifestyle changes, right? Why do most people have a vitamin D deficiency? Because we're not out in the sunlight anymore. So you can get it up with supplementation, but then if for some reason you change and you should your lifestyle and you spend more hours outdoors in the sunlight, then you may not need that supplement anymore. So I would say customize it, but yeah, a lot of people are missing many vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, essential nutrients for sure. And, they cause all deficiencies and degeneration in our body.
If you take a supplement that your body doesn't necessarily need, can you do damage that way, or will your body just pee it out or sweat it out?
Yeah, it's just not utilized, but I think that there is not such thing as too much when it comes to healthy stuff. Um, I like to make 2 points there. Number one, when we take a regular blood test with our conventional medicine doctor, there's all these ranges, right, that we have to fall in. We're deficient if we go low, or we have too much if we go high, especially when it's something bad like cholesterol, supposedly, right, which is a big hoax, but that's another topic. But these ranges, they actually were established World War II because they wanted to know what the minimum nutrients were that our soldiers needed to barely stay alive. And so if you think about it, if you fall within that range and you're quote unquote normal, what that means is you're barely alive. And so we as functional medicine doctors and longevity experts, we still can measure, but we want to be optimal. So when it comes to vitamin D, when it comes to B12, we want to be way higher than within that range. We want to have optimal levels, not quote unquote normal levels, because normal is not healthy. It's barely surviving, right? So we can look at those ranges. But if you work with a functional medicine doctor, we want to have optimal levels. And then the second point I want to make is I think people don't realize that obviously on a daily basis we are producing energy, but we're also producing waste and byproducts and free radicals, right? And we need to stay in balance. But if we look at a few numbers, for example, our body has 30, 40 trillion cells, right? And each of those cells performs a few million chemical reactions per second. Actually, we have about 1.8 quadrillion chemical reactions going on in our body on a daily basis. Each cell, for example, has a few hundred to 100,000 mitochondria. These are our energy production factories that produce ATP, right? And so skin cells, for example, only have a few hundred mitochondria, energy producing factories, but more intense energy producing cells would be liver cells, muscle cells, brain cells. And then the highest probably would be our hearts, responsible for every heartbeat. Each cell, each heart cell has hundreds of thousands of mitochondria. Now, we also need to understand that each mitochondria, each single one of them, produces 2 billion ATP per minute, right? We can't phantom those numbers. So there's hundreds of quadrillions of ATP energy produced on a daily basis. Actually, it's between 300 and 400 pounds is produced and recycled on a daily basis. And so when we look at those numbers and those quadrillions of chemical reactions going on, how can you say that we're taking too much vitamin C, D, E, etc.? I'm sure it will be utilized. And so, bottom line is we need optimal levels, not levels within the range that conventional medicine gives us, because that means we're barely alive. And again, we can obviously do those tests and see where we're deficient.
You mentioned biohacking earlier.
Mhm.
I would like to hear what biohacks actually work and we should take seriously, and which biohacks should we not waste our money and time on?
Well, it's a good question, but it kind of depends on several factors. So, what I like to do with my clients are, first of all, I categorize them. I got three categories, and unfortunately, most people fall in the first one, which means is people that are in pain, people that are overweight, or people that are diagnosed with one or more medical conditions. They're operating below normal. So we need to first regain control of our health and get back to quote unquote normal. That's the first category. Second category, once we are quote unquote normal, no disease, not overweight, just average, we need to optimize our health. We need to get to optimal health through lifestyle modifications because we want to feel strong and vital and athletic, and we don't want to feel fatigued, and we want to sleep good and all that stuff. So now we are kind of the top athlete type. We're kind of in optimal health. And then step three is once we're in optimal health, that's when we can maximize the benefits of biohacking, reversing our biological age. If we're gonna do biohacking strategies or technologies on a person that is battling heart disease or cancer or is overweight, that body is not gonna respond as well to these technologies or supplements or strategies because it's putting out fires, right? So first of all, we got to see where you are and we got to guide people through those three stages in order to respond well. Secondly, I would say a lot of people always are looking for that magic bullet or that silver bullet, something that gives quick results, and unfortunately, that just never will exist. We need to have some foundations in place, and so the first thing I do with people, I talk about those seven foundations, and I take the elements that work for them and mold them in what I call a power routine. It's somebody that they do on a daily basis that they can count on 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes per day that integrates those seven foundations, which is basically a baseline for optimal health. And then once we're in that phase three and we're in optimal health and we want to reverse our biological age, then we can look at technologies and strategies and high-end supplements like NAD plus or certain infusions, or we can look at hyperbaric chamber, we can look at analog PEMF devices, we should be inhaling molecular hydrogen, etc. So So all of these technologies have their place. But to your point, yes, you are correct. When I walk around a biohacking expo or an anti-aging conference, and there's all these exhibitors, I would say that more than half of them are non-scientific based. They are gadgets, they don't work. So many times you do have to do your research, or you do have to consult with somebody like myself that knows what are the things that work and what are the things that do not work and would be a waste of your time and money.
Okay, lots to unpack in there.
Yeah.
My first question goes to your first point, which was that somebody that's suffering with some type of illness and disease, that you don't necessarily want them to be using biohacks. So then I'd want to ask you, do you consider infrared sauna a biohack?
Well, it depends, right? So when you're in that first category, I have some cancer patients. I have a Parkinson patient. I have a mother and a daughter who's a lupus patient. And then on the other spectrum, I work with top and Olympic athletes and everything in between, right? But no matter who you are, the foundations need to be in place. And I also believe that drugs don't heal, supplements don't heal, healthy food doesn't heal, therapies don't heal, infrared doesn't heal. I believe that only the body can heal itself. And when we just talked about those numbers of chemical reactions, and we were talking about cells, but we also have 10 to the 27 atoms, which is much more than our cells, and all those atoms have their own frequency. And so we cannot fathom the complexity of this. And so we as humans, and especially the conventional medicine, thinking that we could intervene and have a positive outcome is kind of laughable if you think about it. So, what we need to start realizing is that the body can heal itself, and that our job is to put the body in the right conditions, in the correct conditions, or give it the right tools. In other words, we got to achieve balance and homeostasis. And once we get people in balance, the body will take care of the cancer or the lupus, or start shedding those excess pounds. So when I have a client in that first area, I do talk about the 7 foundations, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to balance that body. And that may or may not include, to answer your question, infrared sauna, for example.
Okay, you've mentioned the 7 foundations a couple of times. Could you share what the 7 foundations are?
Yes, sure. Number one, water. Um, and the 7 foundations are simple, and most people heard about them, but we're not implementing them, and so nothing happens if you don't implement them, right? So, but water, as humans, we're a plumbing system. We have a cardiovascular system, we have a lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system, and the list goes on. So, if you think about a plumbing system, we need to continue to hydrate and make things move in our body, and that's why we need to drink plenty of water. Number one, with each of those foundations, I'll give you a few examples or tips or important key points. But number one, the water needs to be clean, because we like to talk about toxins. And so based on where you live, you need to know what your tap water or the water you get in your house, what toxins are in there. And you need some kind of a system, whether it's a simple system on top of your counter or it's a whole house system. You don't have to go expensive, but you need something that purifies that water so you can drink clean water to hydrate you, right? Now, a lot of people, when you talk to them, say, "Oh, I drink a lot of water. I drink, X amount of, liters or cc's," and it seems like a lot. But my question also is this: what else are you drinking? Oh, I have 2 coffees in the morning. I drink a soda, or I drink a Red Bull, and so many of those other drinks, they dehydrate us. So it's you can drink enough water, but if you drink other stuff that dehydrate us, then you're really not hydrating yourself, right? So you really have to start minimizing. And again, it's not about exclusion, because we want to enjoy life, but we need to be very aware that coffee, that sodas, that energy drinks, they immensely dehydrate us. And so we would have to compensate for that, and then we're just even, but we need to hydrate, right? So, if you think about it, animals in the wild, once it comes off the mother's breast, the only thing they drink is water, and we should really drink more water. Number one. Number two, air. We all breathe in air, 21% oxygen, right? But 99% of us do not know how to effectively utilize that 21% oxygen or that air because we don't know how to breathe properly. Most of us breathe in and out through the mouth. The mouth is designed to eat and talk. We have something in the middle of our face, which is called the nose, which was designed to breathe in and out. So most people don't know that. You easily can learn it for free on YouTube, or there's actually the best app that I found you can download for free is called, it was called the Breath Source, but now it's called the Source or Source. Because all the breath masters or the best breath masters in the world are on that same platform. But people need to start looking into breath work. When we inhale, this is a normal breath. When we inhale through the nose for 5 counts and exhale through the nose for 6 counts, that would be a normal breath. Now, it would mean that we only take 5.5 breaths per minute. Right now, most people are taking 16 to 20, 22 breaths per minute through their mouth, right? So breathing properly would increase efficiency by 300%. This may be the biggest biohack for everybody, is learning how to breathe properly. And why do I say that? Because people say, well, but Mike, we need oxygen. Yes, we need oxygen to live, but oxygen also can be our enemy. Think about oxidative stress, right? Oxygen rusts our organs, our tissues. Oxygen or oxidative stress is aging. So yes, we need our oxygen, but too much oxygen, as most of us take in through the mouth, is really not beneficial, and it promotes aging. Also, when we breathe in through the nose, we capture nitric oxide, which sits right here in the nose cavity. And nitric oxide, as you know, is a dilator, so it drives that oxygen deeper into our lower lobes of the lung, deeper into our tissues and cells. So, number 2, we need to learn how to breathe and utilize that oxygen properly. Number 3, I would say movement. We already discussed that the body is designed to move. It's a plumbing system. I believe that stagnation equals disease. Now, I said movement. I didn't say exercise because that's a dirty word that we can't use, right? But I know people that work out in the gym 1.5 hours every morning, except Sunday, and then they go to work and sit in front of a computer selling insurance for 7, 8, or 9 hours. And so, from a health point of view, that's not healthy. I mean, it's good that they go exercise, but health is movement. We're not designed to sit still. So we constantly need to move, get up and walk and do things and go outside and play with the dog and play with the kids, the grandkids. We need to constantly move. And you might say, well, it's very hard in a work environment if you have an 8 to 5 job. Yes, it is hard. We're not designed to sit still for that long. But that's one weekend. You see now those offices where the laptop's on there and the treadmill's under the desk, and you can walk while you move, or you got mini trampolines or vibration platforms. There are ways to make sure you continue to move. So movement's very important. Number 4, the opposite of movement, rest. We need a deep delta sleep. We need enough REM sleep during the night. Most of us do not wake up rested, ready to go. We wake up fatigued and like, it's dragging us like, oh, we got to get up, we got to go to work, we got to do this. That means is we didn't get a restful sleep. And it's utterly important to get a deep sleep and be refreshed in the morning, because during sleep, as you know, that's where we repair, regenerate, replenish, right? I always use the analogy of a supermarket. If the people that restock the shelves go on strike for 1 or 2 days, there's nothing to buy at the supermarket. And with our bodies, the same. During night, we need to repair, replenish, regenerate. And when that doesn't happen, it's an accumulative cycle of fatigue and no energy and brain fog and lack of focus. And we can't produce and we can't be the best version of ourselves. So we need to find ways to get into that deep delta and REM sleep. And so that's where I help people with power routines, something that they do before they go to bed that guarantees they get into that deep sleep and feel rested. I can give you 1 or 2 examples of items that are in my power routine, for example, and for most people it would be relevant. Number 1, you cannot eat or snack 3, 4, 5 hours before you go to bed, because the digestive system takes many hours for digestion. So if you eat before you go to bed, of course you can't get into a deep sleep because your body's still working for the next few hours digesting that food. Number 2, most people they can't fall asleep because they're worrying, they're thinking, I gotta do this tomorrow, what I'm gonna say at the meeting, I'm probably going to be late bringing my kids to soccer, whatever it may be. And so their mind is still racing. So part of my personal mind too, part of my personal evening routine is I do 1 minute, 60 seconds of visualization, where through my mind, I go through the next 24 hours. And at each point of contact, I make that right decision. So now I went through the next 24 hours, so I don't have to worry about it anymore and I can go to sleep. So we need to find a way to get into a deep sleep. Number 5 would be sunlight. We kind of talked about it already. We've become creatures of living inside, and we also have clothes on. So even if we are outside, not much of that light is absorbed. And sunlight is essential to healthy living. It stimulates all biological, physiological, and nutritional processes. Again, an analogy I use with my clients is usually, talk about animals that live in the Amazon around the equator. They get a lot of sunlight. They're vibrant, they're colorful, they're strong. The tigers, the gorillas, the birds with all the colors, versus an animal that doesn't see sunlight like a mole. They're even blind, right? So sunlight is crucial for vitality. And so we need to spend more time outside. If it's lunchtime and it's not raining, go outside, go sit outside, eat outside, walk outside. In the evening, when you're at dinner table with your kids, your family, it's not raining, why don't you sit outside? During the weekend, outdoor activities, and take that top off and put shorts on and get more exposure to sunlight. It makes a huge difference very quickly. So that's number 5. Number 6, and it's only one of the 7 because most people just focus on this one: nutrition and diet, right? And we can talk about diet for hours and hours, but usually, to give you a little bit of an idea, what I think should be done is I explain what toxemia is. Toxemia literally means toxins in the blood. But in a little bit more detail, what it means is that as part of daily living, as part of our metabolism, we obviously produce waste. But those toxins and that waste is eliminated by the kidneys, the skin, the bowels. So at the end of the day, no harm is done. However, today we are exposed to and we ingest far more toxins than the body possibly can eliminate. And therefore, we have an accumulation of toxins in our blood and in our body. And that's what's called toxemia. Now, research shows that toxemia does 2 things to our body. Number 1, these toxins steal an electron from a healthy atom, which then becomes unstable, which we all know as free radicals, causing oxidative stress and damage to our cells and DNA. And number 2, even more important and easier to understand, is we're now in a constant state of emergency because we can't keep up with elimination and these toxins are wreaking havoc in our body. And in conventional medicine, we have a term for that. It's called systemic inflammation. And even conventional medicine now finally agrees that systemic inflammation is the cause or directly correlated to over 90% of all disease. So in order for us to stay healthy, what do we need to do? We need to keep toxemia in check. Theoretically, it's actually very easy because what we need to do is we need to, as much as we can, reduce or mitigate the exposure to toxins from what? Man-made foods, man-made drinks, over-the-counter prescription medication, household products, cleaning products, cosmetic products we put on our hair and our skin, and electromagnetic radiation and frequencies from the Bluetooth devices and things like that. So yes, I'm doing my best as much as I can to reduce as much the exposure and intake of toxins while simultaneously increasing the nutrients that do what? Fight free radical damage, fight systemic inflammation, and repair our DNA. And if we can simply tip that balance, we're going to be bulletproof against any disease. So you don't have to be a health freak, but you need to tip that balance in order to be successful. And that's where diet and that's where supplements come in. And then the last step or the last foundation, probably the most important one, is upgrading your mind and your mindset. Because your mind not only controls your body, it controls disease or health, and it also is the blueprint to your future, your successes and your failures. So most people, as you know, their mind is, you know, basically held back by their past, and people label many events in the past as failures. But they're basically lessons, right? We got to learn something when we quote unquote fail and then do it again and hopefully get a better outcome. And so we really need to work on people's mindset because whatever we think, whatever the words we speak, often is what's going to happen, right? If we think we're going to fail a test, the likelihood is very high that we're going to fail a test. So, especially with my clients that suffer with cancer and other diseases, but also top athletes, whatever we think is going to happen. So instead of talking about cancer, which is a label that conventional medicine gives these people that is very negative, so consciously, unconsciously, that label is always in that mind, which is very bad. If the doctor says you're probably going to live only 6 more months and you believe it, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So the first thing I do with anybody is really work on that mindset, being pulled forward by the future, having a plan, overcoming this disease, seeing your grandkids grow up, achieving your goals and dreams, and be pulled forward by that. And once we have that purpose, we need a plan, and then we'll focus on that plan. And the past, we want to go away, negativity. And so when we upgrade the mind and work on our belief systems and eliminate false core beliefs, then all the other 6 things that are focusing on, physical health, the health of our body, are going to be much more successful also. So I take those 7 things, I customize those for my clients and mold them into a 10, 15, 20-minute power routine. Because many of these, and we can call them foundations, but we can also call them biohacks. We can stack those, right? If you go walk outside, what are you doing? You're walking. All right. You can be doing breath work while you walk. So we're utilizing that oxygen. We're exposed to sunlight, and maybe we can take our shoes off and do some grounding. So now we're stacking those biohacks on a daily basis. And those are the 7 foundations that most people heard about, but we're not doing them. And they make a huge impact on your health very quickly if we implement them every day.
Are you pro or anti sunscreen?
Well, sunscreen is obviously bad for you because it's full of toxins. Our skin is the largest organ and is absorbs many of those things. And I think that's where people need to understand the difference between sunlight and heat. And what we need to do is, or what we can do, is look at animals in the wild, right? They hide from the heat in the sun. They're out in the sunlight in the morning, in the evening. That's when they're hunting. But during the day, when the heat is out, they're in the shade under a tree digesting their food, right? They're resting because heat exhausts us. So the heat from the sun is not good for us. The light is very good for us. And so we really don't want to go out in the heat. And if we don't do that, we don't need sunscreen, right? So ideally, we don't go lay in Florida on the beach in Sarasota at 2 p.m. in July. That's not a healthy choice. But we should walk around on the beach early in the morning and later when the sun goes down. That is very good for us. And we can take those shoes off and ground and get fresh air from the Gulf of Mexico. And the list goes on. Yeah.
Go in the ocean.
Yes, exactly. That's grounding too. Yeah.
You said cholesterol is a big hoax. You can't say
Yes.
that and not explain.
Mm. It's always been a big hoax. Again, the big pharma industry always needs to come up with something that makes billions. My grandmother never heard of cholesterol, right? And so they come up with it with something, and then they come up with a man-made range, and they make sure that 80, 90% of the people are high because now they need the drug, and that's a man-made range. When you look up cholesterol, number one, it's a vital substance. It's a healthy fat. All our cells, we talked about it, 30, 40 trillion cells, they all need cholesterol to be able to absorb nutrients inside the cell because cholesterol adjusts the fluidity of the cell membrane, right? So we can't get a good nutrient absorption without cholesterol. Number one, it's a vital substance. Number two, and I can go on cholesterol for a while, but I'll just give you a few things. There is no such thing as bad and good cholesterol. There's only one cholesterol, but they made it a good one and a bad one. When they talk about HDL and LDL, those are merely the proteins that transport the cholesterol, the used cholesterol and other cholesterol, because our liver produces cholesterol and then sends it to the cells because the cells need it, right? And when they send the cholesterol away, it's one protein that brings it, and then the oxidized cholesterol comes back, et cetera, et cetera. So my cholesterol is higher than the next 3 people in the room with me usually, and I'm proud of it because cholesterol is healthy. We need cholesterol. Now, triglycerides is another story, right? So there are bad fats, but cholesterol is not such one of them.
What is molecular hydrogen? And can you explain that to me like I'm a 10-year-old?
Yes, sure. So hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table. For those who go to school and get their first chemistry lesson, they may remember that because it's the first element, because it's the lightest element in the universe. Actually, it's part of the universe. It's the number one component of stars, and it's also the most abundant element in the universe. And so it only has one electron and one proton. Now, it's been used in industry, industrial applications, petroleum refining, hot air balloons like Hindenburg is a good example. And it's been used in the Apollo missions by NASA as part of rocket fuel, right? But that's hydrogen gas. Now, lately, it got attention in the therapeutic or in the medical world because molecular hydrogen, which is two hydrogen atoms bonded strongly together with a covalent bond. It's hydrogen gas or molecular hydrogen. So it's two hydrogen atoms together. Seems to have many positive therapeutic effects when we drink it or inhale it. I inhale it for about an hour per day, and this is molecular hydrogen water, right? So I'm certainly very convinced it's good for our health. So what does it do and why is it so powerful? And I can talk about this for an hour. I wrote a book on it too, by the way. If you want to go to Amazon, there's a book on molecular hydrogen I came out with. But because it's the lightest and smallest element, and because it is neutral, because it has no charge, it can easily cross the cell membrane and enter the cell. Other antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin D, they cannot enter the cell. But it's in the cell where problems like cancer start. In the cell are our mitochondria, the energy factors, our DNA, our RNA, etc. And so trouble starts when the RNA, the DNA, and the mitochondria get in trouble because of hydroxyl free radicals, which are the waste products, the free radicals that are in the cell. And hydrogen get in the cell and neutralize those hydroxyl free radicals and peroxynitrate, harmful free radicals that cause DNA damage and damage to our mitochondria. So that's number one. Number two, it also, because of its size and the fact that it's not charged, easily can cross our blood-brain barrier and enter the brain, and does the same within the brain cells. So the 1,200 studies that are out there right now, including 200 human studies, show that it has a positive effect on any neurodegenerative disease like stroke, Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, dementia, traumatic brain injury, and any other disease, metabolic disease, diabetes, even cancer, by suppressing the mutation of DNA, which causes tumors. So from a disease point of view, now there's over 170 diseases that have been studied, and hydrogen shows a positive effect on all of those. But even when it comes to longevity, which we're talking about now, it has shown to, number one, slow down the rate of telomere shortening. We talked about that, right? So it shows that it slows down the shortening, which means we're going to live longer. It also modulates mTOR, which is the mammalian target of rapamycin, which is popular in the biohacking world. So it regulates that, and so it does many things on a cellular and mitochondrial level, reducing inflammation, reducing oxidative stress. That if we get this hydrogen in on a daily basis, we're going to perform better as an athlete, but we're also going to live longer, and we're going to prevent disease. And so it's gaining more and more attention in the medical world as a 100% safe medical gas that we can inhale or drink, that doesn't cause any side effects and has many multiple health benefits. That's why it's becoming so popular, and most people start hearing about it now.
Dr. Mike, I have two closing questions for you, but before I ask them, is there anything we did not discuss today that you would like to share?
No, not really. There's so much to discuss. I'm always excited to talk about these types of things. You know, um, so no, not really. I mean, just for the listeners, just start taking action. If you don't know where to start or what to begin, go to a functional medicine doctor, go to a health coach or a mentor like myself, and get direction and guidance, and starts implementing simple basic things, becoming healthy, overcoming your diseases. Increasing your longevity does not have to cost necessarily money, because Mother Nature is your number one tool. So it doesn't require you invest a lot of money in order to be healthy. And so everybody can get started.
What is your number one health tip? It could be diet, spiritual, physical, emotional, the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
Yeah, I have to say, even though I'm not necessarily the expert, I practice it, but it is that number seven, right? It's your mindset. If you think you're gonna die, or if you always have negative thoughts and you speak negatively, your world is gonna go downhill pretty quickly. So we really need to start working on, on a positive mindset and paying attention. What am I thinking? Oh, it's negative. Let's change it. What are the words I'm speaking? And there's many tools for that, right? There's meditation, there's breath work that works very well for me. There's visualization, there's techniques like gratitude journaling, getting up in the morning and, what am I grateful for? So that way you instill that positivity before your day even starts. And so there's many little things that we can do that don't take much effort for us to get into that positive mindset. And once we got that positive mindset, anything positive can happen. All your dreams can come true. And so that's probably the number one thing we got to start with before we even do anything else.
For your final question, you get to choose a number 1 through 100, and it will correlate to your question. It's going to be more personal.
That's okay. Number seven.
7. What is a piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
My piece of advice would definitely be get a mentor, get somebody who can guide you because people hear my accent. I'm originally from Belgium. I saved $400, packed my backpack, put my jeans on, and came live the American dream. But um, needless to say, when I came here, I got knocked down many, many times, and my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win or learn. But it took me a long time to be where I am. And so the reason why I'm a mentor now is because I feel I have the experience and the knowledge and the credentials to help people to get where they want to be and show them the pitfalls and get them there much faster than I did by myself. So I think that's something important. We cannot be the best version of ourselves or get to our maximum potential by ourselves. We need to surround us with what I call a team of experts. And they don't need to be experts. It could be your mom, it could be anybody else. We got to identify our strengths and continue to work on our strengths. People say work on your weaknesses. I totally disagree with that. Identify your strengths, what are you good at, and keep working on that. But also identify your weaknesses and then surround yourself with people that are strong where you are weak, right? And that way you can get to your highest potential.
Dr. Mike Van Thielen, everybody. Thank you so much. Tons of value, tons of takeaways, lots of things that we can implement today to start feeling our best and reverse our aging clock so that we can be Benjamin Button.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been really great chatting with you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to request a moment of your time to share something with you that has changed my life immensely, and I think could change yours too. This is an opportunity to fuel your body with the cleanest, most natural energy on the planet. Let me introduce you to Energy Bits. These tiny, mighty algae tablets are packed with pure plant-based nutrition that's not only great for your body, but also for the planet. Made from 100% spirulina, Energy Bits are your go-to solution for energy boosting, enhancing focus, and for supporting overall wellness without any artificial flavors, caffeine crashes, or questionable fillers. Whether you're crushing a workout, tackling a busy day, or you simply want to feel or look your best. Yes, look, it also helps with aging and physical appearance. Energy Bits deliver all the nutrients that your body needs in a convenient, easy to take form. Plus, they're keto, they're vegan, and they're sustainably grown. Here's the best part. As a Heal Within podcast listener, you can go to energybits.com and use code HEALWITHIN to receive 20% off your order. That is energybits.com, code HEALWITHIN to save 20% off your order.